Asmongold is about to tell us the truth of this universe. And as we all know, when a trans woman speaks, you better shut up and listen.
Hi guys, it's me again. Today we're going to talk about something that everybody has experienced, at least secondhand, and
Bad audio quality?
some people unknowingly have also experienced this firsthand as well. And that is going to be the decline of critical thought. This is something that I've been observing over the past 15 or 20 years or so.
From an echo chamber. Is the guy who one day literally, and by the way, this is a literal example, this has happened multiple times at this point. The guy who one day says, "Oh, I'm not a politician and not an expert on this subject," the next day literally gives his opinion like he's a goddamn expert on the subject. Is this guy gonna really tell us about how stupid people are or something? Okay.
And I think that it's definitely started gaining momentum recently. And I want to explain and kind of talk about and explore why is that really happening. And this is a very popular topic in conversation in pop culture. There are things like idiocracy. There's the age-old question that people seem to be asking more often.
I mean, that's a very bad example if it's very popular in pop culture. I would argue, actually, it's not popular in pop culture at all.
Recently, which distilled down is something like, why are people so fucking retarded nowadays? And today, we're going to answer that question.
Okay.
And I actually think that there's a number of reasons for this that make a lot of sense. And the first thing you have to understand is that you have to understand that people need an identity. And that identity used to be tied to a religion, which, by the way,
Okay.
required you to do the exact same thing that secular ideology requires you to do as well. But the religion was a little bit.
That's not a that sentence doesn't track. Secular ideology does not fit whatever he's trying to say here.
More creative about it, and let's be honest, a burning bush is a little bit more exciting than climate change, isn't it? But I can show you guys how there's definitely a correlation there. And so anyway, this begins as a kid. And I think that nowadays kids, I mean,
Wait. Is his grand conclusion the thing that we all know? That atheism is literally just a form of religion nowadays? Because it's treated the exact same ways. The main guiding principles of religion are seen in also those things. Is, is that going to be the grand takeaway? Okay.
feel bad for a kid nowadays. They're growing up, they're 2 and 3 years old, they're getting addicted to Cocoa Melon, then they get older, they've got Mr. Beast selling them, chocolate when there's like, oh, well, this is supposed to be healthy and it's not. They get a little bit older, they start, they turn 8 years old, they can finally write their name, and then by the time they turn 10, they
8? 8? 8?
learn about galaxy gas and then they forget their name again. And so you think
Only if you're black.
about it as a kid.
Never seen anyone white even try Galaxy Glass. And considering how vast and popular that shit is on the internet, you'd think I would have seen it by now.
Nowadays, and you're really getting spawn camped pretty hard. But anyway, here's another component to it that's very interesting. Critical thought, and I think thinking as a concept, and you can think about this with IQ tests. With IQ tests, this, as with any conversation of nature versus nurture, it's often, a lot of times, some from column A, some from column B. It's a little bit of both. You can actually train yourself to become better at IQ tests to an extent. And I think that also what's happened.
Yes? Do I don't even that those past 20 seconds are so arbitrary concepts from many different things that I don't even know how to actually talk about that. He just literally in the past 20 seconds he just literally said like 10 different concepts. I kind of get the point that he's going towards, but this is so random, it's insanity.
Is that people have trained themselves to not critically think. And I think that what's happened is that
Okay.
if you have, your brain and you're thinking about things and you're trying to solve things out and reason them out, you train your brain. It's like a muscle, just like any other thing. And if you don't use it, you lose it. If you use your brain, you're able to
Yeah. Everyone knows that. Thank you. Thank you for the in-depth whatever.
use your brain more. And if you don't use your brain, you're not able to use your brain quite as much. And I think this has happened a lot where people are effectively mentally AFK. And I think that they go AFK quite early on now in life. Because back whenever we were
Yeah. All of us kind of think to that yeah.
kids, and by we, I mean all the other boomers that remember 3,000 years ago and
Okay, keep in mind, again, this is supposed to be some grand virtuous understanding that he's laying down on us peasants, because clearly none of us have ever thought that, hey, maybe having a kid in front of an iPad 24/7 is bad. Because none of us have obviously ever thought that. Only Asmongold has the brain capacity to actually think something as profound as that.
1990, and we were kids, and we would be told, you won't have a calculator in your pocket. By the way, Miss Williams, you're fucking wrong. Dumb bitch. I knew that she was dumb, and I was right. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that we all learned how to do addition. We all learned how to do multiplication. We learned how to divide fractions. And learning math is learning logic. And learning logic is learning how to critically think. And now that there are so many tools, calculators,
That's not, by the way, even remotely true. Math doesn't teach you logic. Math is literally just the equivalent of kind of playing fucking Sudoku. Okay, that's what math does. Math has nothing to fucking do with logic for most people. Okay, if math has anything to do with honestly logic, especially if you're like fucking 7, you're probably gonna be well, what's his name? I forgot, but I'm thinking about was specific Eric Weinstein. Okay, you're literally fucking Eric Weinstein if you're like fucking 5 and math associates is with logic to you. Okay, math doesn't associate with logic. Math associates with things that have explanations, foundations, and whatnot that we're supposed to learn how to use to develop our brains. Math has literally not a single fucking dick shittery to do with logic for the average human. That's completely normal.
things that you can take a picture of it and it just automatically solves the equation on your math test. There are all of these tools that people have for them nowadays that effectively take different instances of critical thought that a person would have to do, and now that critical thought no longer has to occur. You no longer have to think about.
Okay, so to explain what he's kind of trying to say, previously we had, math, and that was supposed to actually make people think and make people smarter because, it got more complex and more complex and more complex over time, and that made us more smart in general. Yes, he is right, but the way he's describing is probably the most absolute brain damaged way possible. Well, I wouldn't expect less from Asmongold, though.
About this yourself because the app does it for you. You have computer.
And yes, now kids no longer need to do these things, and that's why that's probably his take on why kids are stupider nowadays. But the question is, are kids actually more stupider nowadays? I mean, fuck, I was a retard when I was like 10 years old. Not gonna lie, complete, absolute, vapid existence moron. I honestly think I started existing roughly from the age of, like 11 or 12 or something like that. And before that, I didn't even honestly exist. But yeah, kids not doing the same things doesn't mean that they're actually dumber than us. For example, what are you gonna say about this in that case? Adult person doesn't know how to use the computer. Kid knows how to use a computer. Okay? Who is technically smarter and dumber? Hard to say, right? Yeah, but does not does the ability to not do math actually make you dumber? Maybe, maybe not. Typically, people who do know how to do math are smarter than the average. But, this is kind of a really, really bad point to say that kids nowadays are just stupider because they don't do math.
Computers now, and it's weird because you're having like this weird like historical bell curve where boomers, actual boomers, don't know how to use a computer, and then people that are around, I'd say like 40 to like maybe 25 or so, definitely probably know how to use a computer. And what we're seeing now, this is really scary, is young people are now again learning how not to use computers. This is, by the way, another thing that Idiocracy predicted. And it's that there would be a bunch of, like, wow, these machines, how do they work? Nobody.
Wait, what the fuck do you mean? Where are the young people that don't use computers nowadays? Unless the parents force them not to use those things, they're gonna use them.
Knows. Well, anyway, nowadays, kids, because these computers are so well designed, they don't really break as often as Windows 98 used to or Windows XP used to, and you don't have to go into CMD to release and renew your IP address every single time you get a new router. It just does that for its own. It does.
Ah, there we go. Okay, so this is an autistic fallacy. Okay, he is judging all of this from himself, effectively. Asmongold, the guy who literally has not worked a single 8-hour shift in his fucking entire life, who literally just lucked out and became a millionaire through being an early adopter of Twitch and whatnot, is now effectively just retroactively applying the things that he was good at but have not contributed to him actually becoming successful in real life in the past as things that make you a smart human. This is literally the fucking peak of goddamn fucking arrogance. There we go. Because he's using these examples. Oh, kids nowadays don't know how to release an MAC IP address or whatever the fuck bullshit. And he's equating that to being smart because he himself knew that. And he himself obviously is a very smart person. So everyone who is smart should know how to do that. Which is complete fucking bullshit. And I probably don't even need to go into detail why it's clearly fucking bullshit. Because he's effectively just saying, dude, is a doctor smarter than an Asmongold? Probably. Does a doctor know how to release that shit or whatever? Probably not. Some doctors probably don't even know how to use their phones properly. Neither do I, by the way. And that's not because I'm dumb. That's because I don't want to spend extra time on fucking phones than I should. Okay? That's just the point. The fact that the fact that kids nowadays don't know how to reboot a Mac PC OS thingamajig doesn't mean that they're stupider. It doesn't mean that you were better than them because you knew that. If Twitch never happened, you would have literally self-deleted because your life is a miserable pile of shit. And now you have the goddamn gall to call other people stupid because they don't know how to release a gate or whatever on Windows 98? Where did that knowledge take you, huh? Where did that knowledge take? Nowhere. It served absolutely no purpose in your life. It didn't actually make you smarter. It didn't do anything. Now, granted, if you want to be super meek against Asmongold, which is always a mistake, because this guy leaves so many fucking openings that you yourself need to fill up to make his words make sense, then you can say, oh, he's just using that as an example because that's not something that everyone knows. Yeah, true, but there's a lot of things that someone doesn't necessarily know, and that doesn't make people smarter.
It does that on its own. It does that for itself. And because of that, people never really learn how to use computers. They don't really understand how the computer works. And I think
who gives a shit?
That the problem with that, and I actually
almost no one in the world knows how computers work.
Here's what's really crazy about that.
How microchips work? Yeah, well, on paper they know how. Yeah, we can explain how they work. How many can make actually a fucking microchip? Only a handful of people in the goddamn world.
is that I bet people that are 30 years older than me, 40 years older than me, would be saying this exact same thing about us with cars. Because now, every car, you don't have to open your hood to figure out the way that it works. All you have to do
Wait, what? Was this a double bamboozle? Did we spend 5 minutes of you prepping for this and now you're gonna... There's no way.
is plug it into a little USB thing or a connector at AutoZone. It gives you an error code, and then you take it to the mechanic, and the mechanic fixes it based off of the error code. Much better system. However, people know a lot less about cars. And I think the same thing is happening with computers now, because computers are becoming much more defined, tighter, more enclosed systems that don't require as much critical thought to reason out problems with them, because they're just better at solving the problems themselves. Or
what's the point of this?
in some cases, you just get a new computer. It's called planned obsolescence. Very cute. And so anyway, I think this is happening also with math.
What he just described is not planned obsolescence.
And every other form of critical thought is being...
Planned obsolescence is when the person who makes something knows that this is going to become irrelevant or will not be functioning and they need to buy a new version of this in X years. That's planned obsolescence, not oh something stops working. Oh, planned obsolescence.
outsourced to some sort of machine, to some sort of AI, to some sort of thing that is external from yourself. So now the individual, the kid, doesn't have to actually think about how to solve what is multiplication, what is a fraction, what is division, etc., right? What is algebra? They don't have to understand the...
What is his argument? Previously, the argument was what I critiqued him at, but now he's kind of fucking twisting it to the degree that oh, well, actually, no one's gonna be stupider because the term stupid changes with technology. What the fuck is the point of this? Does he not see how he kind of was driving the point home here and he was going there and now he's here in the opposite? What is the point? Does he even know what he's talking about?
The logical implications of algebra, because they have a computer that will do that for them. And I think the problem with that is that once you abstract so many avenues of critical thought, you, at a certain point, abstract critical thought itself. And
the term abstract doesn't work like that. There's no such thing as abstracting critical thought. Okay? He's trying to use the word simplifying critical thinking here. I don't know why he just randomly once again uses a word completely incorrectly.
The worst part about this is that it doesn't end in school. I think this has happened all across the entire culture. And every single group of people, and this is going to ruffle a few feathers here. And that's
wait, yeah, so his 7 fucking minutes to not even deliver a coherent point. Kill me now, please. So he starts off with, oh, people are getting stupider because they no longer do math and stuff. And then he's like, oh, but now it's easier and those things no longer... What the fuck? I'm pissed.
But
I'm about this.
There are a lot of things that, in my opinion, if you evaluate these things critically, you can easily see how they don't really make a lot of sense and how there is a common conclusion that any normal, reasonable person would come to.
How do you come to this conclusion when you're literally talking about previously people knew about cars? Now people no longer know about cars, but now they know about computers. But in the future, people will also not know about computers, but that something's gonna replace it. That's what you ironically are talking about. You literally disprove yourself in the idea that we're getting more stupider because we no longer need to understand computers to what we previously did, or even math and shit. It's just a replacement for cars. It's how electricity replaced veil oil. It's how the combustion engine replaced horse, and suddenly we no longer had the problem that in 50 years we're gonna drown in horse shit. Does he seriously not understand that this is exactly the situation he put himself in?
I'll give you two examples, and we can maybe do two more examples. The first example is going to be the really easy one. This is the one that a lot of people can probably agree on. Have you ever seen the graphs or like the charts? This is for the America people here, that shows how many areas are red versus how many areas are blue, and they show, oh, well, look.
Oh god, is his point gonna be that the masses of people don't actually, that the masses of people live in the blue areas? Is that going to be the point? That those things don't take into account? Well, they don't. They do take into account, but they don't represent density, population density.
Look how many more red areas for Republicans versus Democrats. Why is it that, the races are so close? Well, it's because a mountain doesn't really have a lot of people living on it as much as the same way a city does, for example. And so it's basically people that are willfully misunderstanding data. But the problem here is
they're not willfully misunderstanding data. There's nothing willful about. Well, technically, they are, I guess, but they don't know that they're willfully misunderstanding data. The way he says it implies that these people know that they're not given the full story, but they don't care.
That I think,
which is not true.
We've had such a long time period of
Asmongold. I have fucking videos. Literal videos from 2 years ago where I laugh about you because you're a dumb fuck who can't even understand a graph that has only one fucking line on it because you misinterpret it. Oh, and this guy, kill me. Also, that's a great video, by the way. The fact that he literally can't read a graph where there's just one fucking line and he misunderstands the data 3% is one of the most hilarious things. There's multiple videos of that, but there is one with like 30k views that I have on that one, and that one is just a banger.
Full misunderstanding that people have stopped acting. And here's another one. Climate change. This is a really big one.
Oh now, boy.
The big concept with climate change is not whether or not it's happening, it's whether people are causing it or not. Let's use a little bit of logic here.
Not actually true. People are ignoring this fact. And you know how I know this? Because I constantly talk about this. I say climate change is real, but humans are not the cause of it. Because the world, the climate has changed for the world forever at this point. And these climate scientists are willfully ignoring the fact that, for example, like 5k years ago, the temperature was even hotter than now, but then it just magically dropped. And I guess that was because of the massive amounts of buffaloes and cows farting in the wild or something. Okay? They ignore it. And considering how many people attack me, oh, so you don't believe in climate change? Oh, no, it's human caused. Means that most people have no idea that there is even a difference between climate change done by humans and natural climate change.
Here, if you light a cigarette in a room, the room will smell like a cigarette. If you light a bunch of cigarettes in a house, the house will smell like cigarettes. If you have a lot of pollution in the city will have a lot of pollution in it, and it will be unsafe to breathe in. There are a lot of places that...
What?
I think there's a few places like that used to be like that in China, for example. So,
there's still places like that in China.
Theoretical world, it would be very logical that if you caused enough pollution, that you could negatively affect the Earth in a bad way. This is somehow a bridge too far for many people, and many people are unwilling to even come to the conversation of thinking about whether this is happening or not. And I think the reason why is because that type...
I mean, then prove that it's happening. It should be real easy, but for some reason we don't have proof. And one of the greatest reasons of not having proof here is look at the science for the last roughly 100 years. 100 years ago, we were gonna all die in the Ice Age. Then it was we're gonna all die from heat. Then it was the Ice Age again. Then it was heat, and now it's just called climate change because scientists have literally never once even been. They have never even flipped the coin in the right direction, which way the temperature is gonna go, up or down. They haven't even gotten that right. Okay, but we should have died 100 times in the past 100 years, and that's science, by the way. That is fucking hard factual science. But we haven't because we don't understand this shit.
Of critical thought puts them at odds with the ideology that they subscribe to.
Also, this guy doesn't understand it, considering he actually should be talking about carbon, carbon monoxide or dioxide. Pick one. They're probably the same thing anyway. He actually should be talking about that, but he does not know anything about this subject, so he doesn't know that that's actual the main discussion point that we are talking about. Because if humans are responsible for climate change, then it's all because of carbon in the atmosphere. I think it's generally just carbon in the atmosphere. Carbon monoxide was poison. Whatever. And anyway, it's fucking carbon. That's the thing. He doesn't know that probably because he's talking about this in a very overarching way that doesn't actually strike anything. But anyway, that's fucking Asmongold, and I'm honestly already tired. Bad chicken man, bad. Anyway, have a nice day. Bye bye.